Good afternoon, Rachel, Angus, and Vaibhav. It's great to share a virtual panel with you all today in Vietnam Best Place Tour 2021, especially when we are sitting from multiple places in Asia.
Good afternoon to all the speakers, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Angus Liu of LÄNH, currently connecting from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Back to you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. This is Vaibhav Bhanchawat from Marico, Southeast Asia, and I'm calling in from India.
And hi, everybody. My name is Rachel O'Neill. I'm the farmer head for Novartis here in Vietnam.
Thank you very much. The world as we know has simply gone. Organizations are facing drastic turbulences than ever, while going through a series of internal changes. Not to mention even challenges such as working from everywhere workforce, shaking and hard to engage teams, and rising turnover rate are adding more headaches to any CEO. Moving into these new games, let's learn from each other as well as sharing to the audience on the key shift that we need to make as a leader so that we can shift our team, our organizations, and ultimately also our business results.
Details or discussion, I realize that all of us represent very different industries. So it'll be good to understand how is the context changed for all of us, for our industries, for organizations. How is the game changing?
Thanks, Vaibhav. Well, let me start first then. I think LÄNH, we are a real estate developer. We have a relatively long cycle time from planning, design to actually using the real estate. Product can easily take 4 to 5 years. Hence, we are looking beyond the new normal and adjusting our product, focusing on the next normal now. The pandemic has changed the way we live, we work, learn, and play. More than ever, we are staying home much more than we used to. Hence, we are monitoring the changes and adapting them into our product development of our apartments, township, office building, and even shopping malls. For offices, I think it's less about the dedicated working space, and it's more about collaboration space, meeting, and large conference spaces now. Well, that is for the industry. For our organizations, I think the biggest change is the transition from working efficiently to working resiliently now. The focus of the company now is to work resilient, and of course that would mean some sacrifice to efficiency.
Actually, Novartis, my company, is a healthcare company. And if there's one thing COVID has done, it's to put a spotlight on the importance of good health. The most vulnerable people over the last 2 years are those with comorbid conditions or underlying diseases. Those we worry about in our families are the elderly, those with cardiometabolic disorders or respiratory diseases. My industry has been focusing on making innovative drugs to tackle these healthcare issues for a long time now. And actually for us, COVID has made this mission even more important. It's made us even more focused on how we accelerate what we were doing before. So for us, it's all about how can we collaborate with the Ministry of Health and governments to bring these innovative medicines to patients faster so that our most vulnerable people are really well protected. Now in my organization, in Novartis, this has created another shift. It's driven us from thinking about our products and how to get them out into the market to thinking about our patients and how we need to better serve them. Vaibhav, tell me, how has it been for your industry? Have you seen more challenges or opportunities in the last year?
Now, in business context, at one end, the way consumers consume FMCG products has changed. There were a lot of products which were being consumed in home, moved to out of home consumption, got impacted because the markets were closed, and that moved towards in home. So that was a big challenge. Certain types of products which consumers were consuming in urban centers got impacted because consumers moved from urban centers to rural centers because of the reverse migration. So this was completely different, I would say, ballgame altogether how consumption was happening. Mom and pop stores, wet markets used to be big channels or contributors, but with the lockdown, you see that consumers or shoppers navigated more towards online channels or mini markets. So which meant you had to be ready for every possible change that was happening in the industry. So while that was on the demand side, and on the supply chain, all of us are aware the kind of challenges everyone had actually to run the operations alive, because it was not easy to get the workers operate with those conditions. So it was a completely new context, and I think every day, every week, we were learning something new to navigate this whole complex new world. On the people side, I would say, so initially when people started working from home, it was a bit difficult. Now when people have started working from home, it's become a bit difficult to come back to office. Thong, any insights from your industry?
For P&J, we are in the retail and jewelry industry, and this is really the challenging year. As the economy is locked down, so we closed down for nearly 90% of our store nationwide. And also we have to almost shut down our factory in Ho Chi Minh City with more than 1,000 workers. And during those pandemic and also crisis time, the very important is how we can keep people safe, our workforce, and keep people calm. Because we are in jewelry industry, so we have the workforce of nearly 4,000 female workers. So that's the reason why they are more vulnerable, they are worried more. So try to keep everybody how to face with the uncertainty, with the pressure is very important.
But COVID has not been all good news by any means for our organisation. A lot of my people have been very anxious about their patients, about their customers, about the hospitals they work with, and of course about their loved ones and each other. Our anxiety as we hear that patients who are vulnerable are missing appointments, not able to get medicines, scared to go and see their doctor, has made my team really worried. And so I have been so proud to see the way that they have pivoted from their traditional ways of working to finding new innovative ways to get the information that doctors and patients need to them as quickly as possible. And there has been no sacrifice greater than that of our supply chain. The efforts that our warehouse team have gone to make sure essential medicines continue to flow uninterrupted into Vietnam and out into the provinces where they're needed has taken my breath away. In fact, watching my team wrap their arms around these problems and around each other has been one of the most enriching leadership moments of my whole career. It's been such a privilege to witness. I'd love to know, actually, for the rest of you, what have you learnt this year? What have been the most defining or enriching leadership experiences for you out of all of this? Vipav, maybe you want to go first.
Yeah. So I think to me, I think the leadership experience this year was centered more around humility and gratitude. And like I was talking about the challenges we had in supply chain, factories were never designed as residential units, and making arrangements on a short notice to house all the workers so that they can live there, it was a big challenge. And for all the workers, it was not convenient to stay away from family in those conditions which were not convenient, not similar to the comfort they would have in their own house. Every time I would walk into a town hall, I would go a bit worried that I'll be asked some tough questions from the employees. But to me, it was completely opposite. All the conversations, and people had to stay there for a few months, and the conversations were always about gratitude, that we took good care of them. We provided them all the support, the basic necessities. So it wasn't about just the leaders and the managers. It was like you could see leadership was surfacing at grassroots level. There were colleagues who were stepping up and holding each other at the time of crisis. So to me, that was really, really an enriching experience. But equally, all those conversations where people were not complaining at all, and to me, it was a very humbling experience. Angus, how's been your?
For my side, is there's actually no one defining leadership moment for me, but I'm glad that we see what we have practiced stand the test of time. The culture that we have gradually developed prior to the pandemic has handsomely paid off during the time of crisis. One of our company values is caring for people and community. It becomes a very good guide for our action during the crisis. All the decisions were centered around putting our colleagues and communities' health and safety at the highest priority. We believe that a safe working environment is a prerequisite of good performance. So by sincerely caring about our employees' wellness and doing what we can to foster it, our colleagues becomes more engaged, and in the long run, I think it will be more productive. Yeah, I think that is what I can see. Building a culture is over time and it's not overnight. Yeah, Tom, what about you?
Yes, actually, the past 2 years also made me realize that the business context is changing, and the role of our company as an employer change. And also, we also find that I myself also find that the leadership also need to change. At P&J, we are at the middle of transformation, where we give people more power, empower, more delegation. During COVID time, during pandemic, I have to be a bit struggling at first between on one hand, I still try to embrace the empower and delegation. On the other hand, it is at war, so I have to make a very decisive decision. I don't have a lot of time for discussion. I'll get the consensus, so we have to make decision, and we consider the leader is the general at war, so they can make decision on their field. I have to make decision. I have to predict what the government gonna do, and then make the decision. And then the speed of action, reaction is very important during COVID time. So I'm kind of stretched between two dimensions. On one end is empowering. On the other end, I have to act fast and make the very decisive, less democratic. And the other thing is the empathetic, and also with the leading by example is very important during the COVID time, especially at that time when we initiate the ideas of going out doing the social initiative. And at that time, people really panic, really worried that they get infected. But we ask for volunteer, and the only one to make the volunteer work is the leader. And we are always standing at the front line, and a lot of pressure, a lot of tears, a lot of worries, but we love each other more going through the pandemic, and we find that we have a stronger, trusted team. So in your opinion, what are the new leadership qualities to this new business and social state? Just state above.
Leadership qualities I need. It's no longer about having perfect knowledge or being right all the time or getting a flawless execution. I need a mindset of innovation. The world is much more complex than it ever used to be. We are no longer dealing with certainties. We are dealing with ambiguities. So I need a workforce that can use their judgment, that can synthesize many data points, that can find a route through bureaucracy to get to a great solution, and that are confident to take a risk. And when I say take a risk, I mean that fear of failure. That's not the future that we need. So to get us there, we need a lot of focus on psychological safety. How do we give our teams this confidence to innovate? How do we teach them that it's right and okay to start with a pilot or a beta or a minimal viable product and then scale as we learn? How do we get into a world of continuous improvement? So the skills I'm recruiting for are quite different in the future. Much more about agility, learning agility, change agility, much more about customer and patient centricity, much less about knowledge.
Well, very well said, Rachel. I have the same opinion as you, and similar to Tom as well. So as I mentioned earlier, resilience is very important for the times of uncertainty at this moment. So what I can say for post-pandemic is agility, like what Rachel said, has become very, very important, especially during this time of uncertainties. And the answer to agility is empowerment. And delegation of decision making down to the ground is important at the time of crisis, and it is critical to respond fast and move quickly. But I was attracted by what Tom said. We have to predict what the government will do. I think that is not an easy thing to do. But when we come together as a group, sometimes we can come out on good solutions. So empowerment and delegation happens over time, and again, not overnight. And furthermore, I think now it's like a hybrid working environment. We have to work with the non-co-located teams, and it doesn't just require changes in facilities. It also have to a big shift in mindset. So if we sit back and we don't bring our virtual teams together regularly, work streams will fall apart. That's why I think post-COVID, in order for us to foster the same efficiency with the meeting schedules when we're back in office, we also need to have a lot of engagement. That is why in Gamuda LÄNH we have a lot of online town hall. Now we even go for small group staycation, which is the hip books for now, staycation, and more one-to-one catch-up. I think that is the change in working culture to me. Vaibhav, your turn.
Yeah, very. All have worked in organizations where we've all had BCPs, the business continuity plan, and we've rehearsed the business continuity plan for several years. But when crisis really knocks at your door, then you are not in a position to read through the book and see what was written on page number 3, because when the crisis presents itself on the door, it comes in a very different form. And I'm sure all of you would agree the crisis we dealt this year is nowhere written in any BCP. So that requires that swift decision making, what Thong was referring to, being decisive. But equally, I think to Rachel's point, it's about empowerment, because as leaders, I don't think we are in a position to take every single decision. Ground realities are very different, and I think people are there down the line, and if they are empowered based on what they see the situation is, and if they take swift decisions, and I think that's the best place to operate. And second, positive outlook with a solution mindset, I would say, because there's a lot of anxiety, there was a lot of concern, people were getting bogged down by problems. Now, as a leader, to me, if you continuously echo the problems, keep talking about the things which people already know, I don't think we are helping. Now, how do we sell hope? How do we sell a direction that really inspires them that, look, there is light at the end of the tunnel?
There's something in what you have all just shared about empowerment which really struck a chord for me. In a crisis, it's so tempting for a company to try and become the mother and father for their employees. We naturally want to protect our people and protect our business, and it is so difficult to resist the urge as a leader to do that by taking control. But we know times of uncertainty need even more agility, not less agility. And that hierarchical decision making not only slows us down, but kills our very best ideas because people feel nervous to share them. And this journey that we are all on in our different industries around empowerment and simultaneously enabling our employees to use their judgment, to feel confident to take their decisions, and to serve their customers in the best way. If we get this right, it makes us a much more authentic organization, a much more agile organization, and a much more customer-centric organization. But the thing I really realized in COVID is you can't rely on having a handful of decision makers, because if they all get COVID, who is leading your organization? If we cannot build empowerment into our systems, structures, and people, if we cannot set that expectation that we apply good judgment at all levels, our business is not secure. So we have to build this mindset into the new normal.
When we're looking back and see how the shift has shifted from the normal situation, we can see that the agility is very important, and also with the positive mindset, so that people see the solution. Don't need to go to the perfect solution, because there's nothing perfect in that situation. We just need part of the information. We try to predict and make a fast move.
So I have a question for you. COVID creates an opportunity for us to take employee experiences much more seriously. Care is not maybe a new concept, but in this new context, there are a lot of new practices. We've gone through a number of changes in Novartis, but I would love to learn from all of you. What are you doing to improve your employee experiences? And Vaibhav, maybe you'd like to start.
So to me, that care is all about respecting each one's situation and giving them that flexibility to operate. And as long as organization we can arrive at that mutual agreement that look, as long as the work doesn't suffer and we create enough flexibility for people to operate, I think it's a win-win for everyone. So to me, care is just that acknowledgement that everyone's situation is unique and giving that space to operate.
Yeah, but more than any time, we need to show our empathy, especially during the pandemic and also the post-pandemic. There's a lot of way we can exhibit the kindness, like actively listening to them, check in with them, offer support and understanding, and help connecting the employees to necessary resources. And I think very important is that we thank them generously. So by sincerely caring about our employees' wellness and doing what we can to foster it, the workforce become more engaged. We can see a pretty good result as the turnover rate in 2021 is actually very low for us. It's less than 5%. Yeah, Tom, please share your experience.
During at the very beginning of the COVID back in early June, at that time, still not yet locked down, but at that time we already planned for the worst situation. That's the reason why we prepared we turned some of our dormitory into kind of the hospital, just in case. We also asked our medical service doctors to help us through the phone. If anyone get infected or their family relative, we will support. And then when we get into lockdown, we have to do a different way. That people in the same district group into the group that is called self-help. If one family getting COVID, then the other in the same district will go to the colleagues and providing with the medical assistance. On the other end, we also try to keep people safe in financial safe. At that time, the company have closed all the shops and we have lost at the first time ever in 33 years. But we decided we should not cut any salary. Actually, we had to pay more to support for the family because many of our workers become the only income. So that's the reason why the top leadership team decided we put half of our salary into the fund to support for the people who are in need. On the other end, I think the camp and also how to be balanced, get out of stress is very important. That's the reason why we have group chat. The people, if they are in trouble or they want to share something through workplace with Facebook, they just have a lot of activities out there in the workplace. Hi, Barbara. How do you see this shift in your way of leading, making impact to your business and your team?
Yeah, so that's quite interesting, and sometimes you don't realize what could be the impact it may have down the line. And there's one thing consistently, let's say I've been talking about in my town halls with the teams all about this positive mindset, solution mindset. And what interesting is you start seeing the impact because teams down the line also are echoing the same, I would say, belief, and they are cascading the same rigor and same spirit down the line. So then everyone comes across more positive in these tough times when there is anyway so much of negativity and so much of anxiety. People are coming out with a lot of hope, lot of optimism, and there is a big shift from a business point of view. When people start becoming very focused on solutions, then the energy that it generates in the business is very different. And that's where what we saw in the last 3 months, while the industry suffered a lot, but in general, as a business level, we came out as a winner. We relatively did better than what we thought. To me, that's all credit to everyone being very positive and solution focused. So to me, I think that's a good impact, good to see. And it's not just that in the last 3 months when there was peak of pandemic, but that spirit continues.
Puff, I think you're right. Never give up. There's one saying that when the going gets tough, the tough one gets going. So I think we share that. We never give up, even during the difficult times. Well, I have questions here. Well, we are all human after all. I would very much like to hear about all of you sharing on how this shift changed you as a person.
Yeah, I can start, and then I'd love to hear your view as well. Well, I guess actually this has had a really profound impact on me, which is not even necessarily to do with what is happening with my team in Vietnam. When COVID started, I was working in Switzerland, and it took me a really long time to get here. I was trying to support my team remotely during a lot of the lockdowns. I was so anxious about them, and I wasn't here in the country with them to be able to lead and guide and support. I felt really powerless to make good decisions because I wasn't on the ground and I couldn't see for myself what was happening. But the way I tackled that was to lean into my vulnerability, to kind of embrace that feeling of powerlessness, and to realize that I might not be making the best decisions if I just make decisions, but that I need to really rely on my team and really trust their judgments, ask a lot more questions than I would normally ask, spend a lot more time listening, and particularly surround myself with challengers and truth tellers, both within my organization and outside, people who will really tell me what they see and how they think and what they feel. And by doing this, I felt more and more able to lead, to guide, to support my team. But that's a very different way of working for me. I'm used to being quite fast-paced, moving forwards quickly. So taking my time, listening more, asking more questions, that was how I led through the crisis, and it has made me a much better leader. I'm very grateful for that experience. Angus, how has it changed you? What was your own experience?
It's quite a tragic moment for me. Well, during the pandemic, I have my grandmother and my auntie actually passed away due to COVID-19 infection. So what I see is that while we are working very hard and not giving up in finding solutions for our business, family relation and work-life balance are also equally important. So there are some times that when you want to spend time with the family, but they are no longer here. I think that is the biggest regret. Similarly to our colleagues, I think many would have been through the same tragic moments. So I tend to agree with Vaibhav that maybe focus on mental health could be something that we need to look into very soon. Yeah, I think it's part of how we can lead with empathy.
So to me, it was humility. I mean, seeing a lot of operational challenges, way people were embracing all the difficult situations, people in the factory knowing that family members are down with COVID, but despite that, like that whole feeling of helplessness where they cannot still step out. Because sometimes when you see some of these things closely, you realize we are chasing so many different objectives in our careers, in our lives, and end of the day, for every single person, mostly what matters is family and their loved ones. So, I mean, it's just a realization. It's just sorry for your loss, and it's been a very humbling experience, and it just strikes I would say, realization that you need to reorient and prioritize a lot of your energies towards what really matters for you. And it could be work, that's all right. It could be family, and that's absolutely all right. So it's just that sometimes it's just a wake-up call about what is really important, and then you shift gears and start making your next day more aligned to what you really want to cherish. How about you, Tom?
This year has really changed me quite a lot. In the other years, I try to put the professionalism, try to restructure the organization. But during this year, I find another power in the connecting of the emotion. Sometimes I try to arrange different working ways, try to reinvent the process. But during the COVID time, I find that many times it works just by sitting down, sharing with our colleagues. They will find a way. When they get shared, when they have the emotional connection, they will do it much faster than the way that we have to sitting in the meeting room, try to reinvent the process. Another power angle that put on the company culture. It is about the human touch. It is about the common trust.
So I'm sure that it's been a lot of learnings for all of us this far. Looking ahead, how do you describe 2020 or way forward, Rachel?
Yeah, so I am really looking forward to 2022. Like 2021 has been a long, hard year for a lot of us, so I have a lot of optimism about the recovery. And I think the second key word for me is focus. Narrow down the number of things we're trying to do. Go for depth instead of breadth.
For myself, 2022, actually, I'm looking forward for the new year. It has been a very long year this year, and we are looking forward for a brand new start. So what I have in mind is the refresh. That would be a year for refresh. Refreshing the business after a year of difficulties, refreshing the way of we are doing business, or we have some change capital during the last 2 years, and it's now to realize those capital, take the return on investment what we have done during the last 2 years with transformation.
I kind of understand why Tom look forward to New Year, because Vietnamese have a culture that they buy gold during New Year, right? So that I'm sure next year there were a lot of people who have to buy
Yes,
gold.
I'm looking forward for that New Year.
I have said the keyword for last year is hope for the best and plan for the worst. But we still can't really say that the worst has gone. So for me, for 2022, my keywords will be resilient again. We always need a backup plan for whatever we are doing, including our human resources. Well, the cost efficiency might be lower, but survival is the key to all business. Then for all of you, what do you see is the biggest leadership challenge awaiting for us as a leader?
I think that would be on how fast and how radical we shift our leadership for the new year, because the workforce actually has gone through a very serious event, and they change their emotion, they change the way they're looking, the way they perceive life values. They also change the way of the equilibrium between work and life. And also our customer also change on their life priority. So that's the reason why the company have to change. And as a leader, I also have to make sure that I stay ahead.
So very similar to you, Tom, as leaders, is one is collaboration. Now, a lot of people, I realized in the last 4-5 months of this lockdown, joined the business, and they never had that opportunity to come to work, meet colleagues, build a bond. They've been interacting on digital platforms, and it has its own merits, but it's still not probably as effective when you have got a call or a meeting. And that's what I'm sensing, that collaboration within workforce will be very crucial to manage, especially when there are people who've joined new into the organization. So one has to look out for that and really do whatever it takes to build some strong connections between different teams. And number 2, I would say, is the part around employee burnout. So while we are going back to work, it's still not going to be easy. Like I said, everyone's situation is different. Mental health challenges are getting talked about these days, and not everyone is comfortable talking about it. So some of these may be new, and we may not see every day around us, but they are there. So we have to really look for those and look out for people if they are under any stress, any challenges, because people have lost a lot in the last few months. So I think we'll have to look for those early signs and then see what role we can play as leaders in creating that space and flexibility for them, so that people have the time to slowly enter into this new world. And it should not be like, okay, lockdown is removed, everyone should come back to work. I think we'll have to just make it a bit gradual and make it a bit easy for people.
So for me, it's slightly different in Novartis. I talked about focus being critical for us in 2022. And it's because we have such a strong, powerful sense of what we need to do and why we're here. It's so important to us that we can collaborate with the authorities to strengthen healthcare, so that we can get our great innovative medicines to far more people faster than ever before. But we have to make sure we do that with focus. And most important for us, one of our biggest challenges next year is going to be business agility, balancing that flexibility to the constantly changing environment with that desire to execute at speed. And I talked before about going deep, not going broad. But we also need innovative thinking. So this is the next leadership challenge for me in 2022. With these new challenges, the extra constraints on healthcare resources and spend, because a lot of it now has been spent on COVID, the big surge towards digital health, which has so many opportunities for patients. How do we, as a medicines company, go beyond the pill in what we define as value to our stakeholders? How do we use that creative thinking to iterate on good ideas, to take them further quickly at speed, so that we're no longer providing medicines, we're providing healthcare solutions? This is such an exciting challenge. So we're going to have to become more comfortable with not being perfect. We're going to have to start to see failure as a learning opportunity and really create that psychological safety if we want to move forwards.
I would say the biggest challenge for me next year would be uncertainties again. Even though for COVID, we start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Things are getting better. We are coming to work, lockdown as it is. But there are other things that coming up to our industry. For example, inflation, supply chain disruptions. All of these are on the way. So for us, there's still a lot of uncertainties in 2022. And at the same time, one thing very strange happened is that there is a job vacancy and unemployment at the same time. For me, is that I agree with all of you. Say agility is a thing that we need. And one thing is I see is we need to have market intelligence. We need to collect data. I think market intelligence is what we need for predictions of what will happen. So that is something that we need to work together with our team. We can share information together, and also there could be a system that we can collect data from around the market.
If you have to choose only one principle to navigate your ways in coping with unexpected challenges to turn them into opportunity, what would that be?
I guess my one principle to navigate the challenges next year is going to be trust. Because if we really have trust in our organization, then we have that psychological safety I talked about, which allows us to innovate, which allows us to reevaluate risk, which allows us to feel that we can learn and develop and grow. And if we really have trust with our customers, with the healthcare system, then we really can collaborate and we really can make the difference that we all dream of. Vaibhav, what about you?
I would say still the solution focus through a positive mindset. And reason I'm saying is not only from a business or operational context, but equally from people leadership aspect as well. Yeah, how about you, Angus?
Well, for me, the one principle is caring for our people all the time. Human resource is always the biggest asset for the company. And of course, not just caring for our people, we should do more engagement, so that we have more trust and we can communicate better, especially during the crisis time. Everyone is empowered and they know what is right to do. I think that is important. Tom, yourself?
I'm thinking of the well prepare and enjoy what happened to us. We just don't know what happened next year. Hopefully everything will be brighter and much better. But who knows? Actually, at this time of last year, we're still hoping for a better 2021. But good preparation and enjoy the process, no matter what it is, will be very important to have us moving forward. We have really enjoyed our discussion so far. We just love to have more time for sharing, but it seems that time is going to end. So what's your last sharing to our audience?
I think it's very interesting that how we do these panel discussions. We are in everywhere. I think this could be the new normal. And I really enjoy the panel discussion with all of you. It's really an enriching experience for me. I learned from all of you a lot of things. One thing that especially caught me is innovations is required during a time of crisis from Rachel. Focus on solutions from Vaibhav. And more interesting from Tom is that while you empower, you still need to be a very decisive boss.
See, when I came into this discussion, one thing I realized we all come from very different industries. And when we started this discussion, our business context was probably very different. But look at all the solutions or leadership principles we were talking. I don't think there was any disagreement. I mean, yes, you may prioritize one versus another, but to me, the aha moment was, look, you can learn from any industry. And like Angus summarized, I think there are a few points I'm taking back with me, and I'm sure the audience also will find it interesting. Doesn't matter where you work, which industry, but the learnings, especially around these uncertain times.
I can see I learned a lot from you about the changing of the context that are waiting for us in the new year. We can see the change in the workforce. We can see how people emotionally connections has evolved and become more important part of our leadership, and also the connection between people within the organization. We also see how the focus, the innovation, and the mindset, the solution mindset, is helpful for those unpredicted future.
If I was going to summarize one thing I've really enjoyed hearing from you, it's about the new qualities of a leader in the new normal. We've all talked about the importance of being humble and vulnerable rather than powerful. We've talked about how important it is to use judgment more than just knowledge, agility instead of perfection, daring creativity instead of predictable certainty. This is a very new world. It needs a different style of leadership. The other thing I really loved, and Tung, you talked about this, was we have to care for our employees as if they were our own family. Make the same decisions we would make for them as if they were related to us by blood. If we truly care for our people, they will care for our customers for us. That job will be done. And you talked so beautifully about love and connection in an organization. Maybe 10, 15 years ago, we would have seen that the office is a place of business, a place of work. And I think what this year has taught us is that it should also be a place of family, a place of connection, a place of mutual love and support. And I think that's one of the most powerful messages I've taken from our discussion today.
Let's together we say goodbye to our audience and looking forward to meet each other in person very soon, and hopefully we can meet audience of the best place to work very soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.